Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel, and I do have me a nice big cup of coffee this evening. Just got off work. We had a really great thunderstorm earlier, and so I put on a cozy sweatshirt, which is one of my favorites. It's my Killer Coffee sweatshirt. Love it so much. I think I got it on a online kind of thrift store, and so I don't actually know where you can find this because I just happened to run across it in the thrift store and I was like, I have to have that. But anyway, we are talking today about the book Lovely, Dark, and Deep by Elisa A. Bonnin. And this book was it was pretty good in my personal opinion, and of course that's why I bring it to you guys, but it was also kind of surprising as well, and thus I think it has a little bit, if you like dark academia, kids with magic, or and I say kids, but most of these characters are roughly between the ages of like 16 to maybe 20-ish. So I say kids, but that's because I feel like I'm kind of adulting at this point, and kind of hate that for myself. But they're in like late stages of their kind of high school education at this particular point, and we do kind of explore the topics of magic, loneliness, and the power of found family. And so that is kind of one of the themes and part of the summary. Let's dive into the summary and we'll go from there. Hidden off the coast of Washington, veiled in mist, there is an island that does not appear on any map, and on that island is Ellery West. Ellery West has always been home for Faith. After an international move and a childhood spent adjusting to a new culture and a new language, the acclaimed school for magic feels like the only place she can be herself. That is, until Faith and another student walk into the forest, and only Faith walks out. Marked with a red stripe across her uniform that designates all students deemed too dangerous to attend regular classes, Faith becomes a social pariah, an exile of Ellery West. But all she has to do is keep her head down for one more year to graduate, and gets to keep her magic. Because when students fall out of Ellery West, they have their magic taken away forever, and Faith can't let that happen. Except terrifying things are starting to happen to students, and the dark magic that was unleashed in the forest still seems to be at work. To stop it, Faith and the other Red Stripes will have to work together, risking expulsion from the magical world altogether. So this book is anticipated to be released on March 25th of 2025, so I know I'm a little late with this, but only because I really had so many books that were due right around the end of March that I'm actually going to double this one up with one other book. And so I'm probably going to release them on the same day so I can get them both in for March. And then we can start on April's books, which I do think I have about 22 of those to work my way through. But Let's talk about Lovely, Dark, and Deep. For one, I'm just going to go ahead and be honest. The title alone kind of threw me off a little bit. I love dark academia. I find it's a very interesting topic when authors explore it. And I've seen it with Naomi Novik, which I do have a book over here, Deadly Education, which is a dark academia book. And I have quite a few other kind of dark academia themed books that I've either read, reviewed, or have on my TBR list. But it's a really great way to kind of see these kids come into power, or whatever power they're going to have, and how the author uses it to kind of tell the story of coming of age, the found friendships or broken friendships, whatever that may be. And I think it kind of highlights the struggles that teens face in general, with just this extra layer of magical abilities. Now, in this particular story, I did find that we have our main character, and she, just scrolling back up real quick to my topic, but yes, so Faith, she has an ability that is like magic based. And so it can be kind of volatile, especially because it seems to be really closely tied to her emotions. And so when she starts to feel overwhelmed, overpowered, angry, angsty, her power tends to kind of show itself or do a little damage, what have you. And I think that's a really good representation of like teenage angst. Faith is kind of almost at war within herself as well. Not only is she an international student, it sounds as though I do believe she is Filipino. She has now come to this magical school, and previously, in the previous year, she was maybe not what they would call the popular kid, but she ran in a circle that was fairly popular-esque, popular-ish, and now we have her kind of coming back to the school in her last year. Maybe you could call it her senior year. Only needed to get through this year, but she is now part of what they call the Red Stripes. And the Red Stripes are a group of teenagers who are a bit of maybe a danger to others as well as themselves. Now, there are two Red Stripes that seem to, I think it's Yvonne, who has this kind of temporal time magic. And then there's Alex, who is like a really incredible empath. And so it's very hard for Alex to be around other people because she almost seems to have, and I don't want to assume, but I do think she has either a level of autism or ADHD or possibly both, where she kind of, it kind of almost physically hurts her to be around people too much, because she gets overwhelmed by kind of hearing and feeling everybody's emotions so loud in her body. So both really cool characters. We also have a couple other characters as well that are kind of part of this Red Stripe group that they didn't do anything to hurt anybody else, but they seemed to have tried to run away or tried to like escape the island, and now they've kind of been deemed a Red Stripe, which in my personal opinion doesn't really like make a Red Stripe. Like, they're not really dangerous to themselves or others. They just didn't want to be on this island, and one of those characters has a very good reason why she doesn't want to be on this island. Like, her sister was stripped of her magic, or you could say they locked away her magic, because they do say that in this book they don't take it, like it's not taken away from you, but it's almost locked down so deep that you can't access it anymore when they find that you are unable, quote unquote, unable to control your magic. Well, her sister had been one of those people who didn't really, I guess, wasn't able to control her magic as well as they wanted her to. So now she also does not want to be at this particular school, because her sister, I think, had the ability to shape air and to almost take the breath away from people, to strip oxygen out of a room, or to pretty much suffocate someone just by preventing them from being able to breathe. And so, yes, I mean, that is probably dangerous for a high schooler to have, but they didn't trust her to. And then I guess once they locked that away, her personality changed as well. So her sister was very much jaded by the whole experience. But I really enjoyed this book because we do have this sense of found family. When Faith is joining this Red Stripe group, we do get a lot of kind of internal dialogue and conversation with herself about all these different things that, like, how welcoming and openly accepting these other Red Stripe students are with Faith. And Faith feels as though she's never had that before. And so the friend Sydney that she had walked into the forest with, and Sydney did not walk out, but Faith did. Faith really does blame herself for that particular instance. She feels as though she should have done something different, all this sort of stuff. And maybe there is a level of like feeling like we can always change what happens, like hindsight, but I'm really glad in this book, like as it progresses, that Faith is able to let some of that guilt go. She's also able to let other people into her life in a much more meaningful way, and she's able to start working through some of that trauma that kind of happened when Sydney went, let's just say, missing. Because I don't want to give spoilers, and I don't want to dive into like some of the guts of the book, because honestly, I really liked it. Now, if you're looking for like dark academia classes or anything like that, if you're trying to figure out what's being taught at Ellery West, you're not really going to find that, because most of the content of this book is the students, especially just focusing on the Red Stripes and their interaction with each other, with their own personal powers, and with the forest that is kind of the source of this darker magic. Going back to the title, that's where I find the title to be a little bit, I don't know, it's a little vague, or maybe not as relevant in my personal thought to the story, because I do feel as though we could have given it a title that made more sense. But they went with Lovely, Dark, and Deep, and it's not bad, but it just sounds a little bit more romanticized, or less dark and gritty. And I do feel like some of this story has some dark and grittiness in it, and in a good way. I do think these students get along with each other very well. I think their relationship has like some depth to it, and like especially the way they try to understand each other. It seems as though each of them has felt like an outcast in certain respects. So they are then able to then connect with each other, because they know what it's like like I said, in these different ways. The magic system is pretty clever. And if you go to the front of the book or anything, it's going to tell you like there's artificers, there's like naturalists, and I think there's lumineers. I think those are the three we've got. And so Faith, she is a naturalist because of her ability. Now, I kind of forget what the general like definition for each of those are, but I do remember that I think there was three, if not four, but I think there's three of kind of the realms they fit in based on what they can do and kind of like how their magic is sourced. Sometimes with naturalists, it comes more from the inside and kind of goes out. Lumineers do kind of connect on a more of an empathetic level in some ways, and it seems like artificers are able to take and shape magic that's external to them. So I may be getting it a little bit wrong, but that was my general understanding for this particular magic system, which I thought again was pretty good. For the naturalists, since most of their magic comes from kind of within them, Faith does find, as some other kind of naturalists do, that emotion is very much a key point of like power of magic. So the angrier she is, the less control she have, but the more powerful her, I guess, magic ability is. It's not as, again, controllable, but it is a little more powerful. But she's got to learn how to harness that and maybe use a different feeling or different emotion in like to fuel her abilities. And again, I'm trying to dance around that a little bit in order to not give spoilers as the book progresses, because it does take us away from the school, takes us into a very interesting story with the forest and connections to the school. And some students do get kidnapped from the school, or they don't get kidnapped, but I think the forest encourages them to walk away from the school in different ways. So you'll have to read it to find out. I do think this is considered YA. Definitely not middle grade. I think it's a little too old for the middle grade genre. I think there's just a little too much going on. And I do think middle grade could understand it, but it may just be not quite right for them. YA for sure. I think this would resonate well with the high school level kids, or maybe the ones who freshly got to college, who are feeling like loners or outcast, or feeling like they don't fit in or connect. This would be a good book for them to maybe read in order to, start fostering a sense of there are people out there who can understand them. You just got to find your people. And I can completely agree and understand that sentiment, because I was also that type of kid who I felt like I was like that extra friend. Like I was part of the friend group, but I was not like a linchpin part of the friend group. So it's like I felt as though, and again, that's why it resonates well with me. I felt like I was kind of like that extra friend that's like was on the edges, but maybe not always part of the main group. I don't know. Just one of those things that I kind of felt when I was in those different like high school level, early college level. Of course, I've got a fantastic friend group now that I don't feel like I guess like that extra friend in the friend group. And I also hope that I am making my friends feel as though they don't feel that way either, that I am invested in who they are and that sort of thing. But let me wrap this up for this book. I thought it was a really good read. If you're not into YA fantasy, magic schools, dark academia, maybe something else would be better for you. But if you are into those things, this was actually a pretty good book to dive into. There is a little bit of naivety on the main character's part. Of course, there's a lot of stubbornness and feeling like she has to shoulder the burden of everything by herself. And I guess that could be kind of a trauma response. But, I think we've got some ups and downs in the book, but I thought it was pretty good overall. But with all of that being said, I do want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed already, then I really hope you will. And I will see you guys on the next page. I hope you have a great one. Bye.